Okay, I'm back, I guess. Yep, live again. I think the connection is good this time, so I can stay on. I want to show you guys something that I have in my desk. It's a piggy bank. Let me show you what I've got in it. This is more for this is not for savings. It's more just for fun, really. But I have a piggy bank full of currency from all over the world. Live again, live from the surface of the moon. Let's see. Here's an interesting coin that I have. I don't know where this is from. Oh yeah, Republic of Hrvatska. That's Sweden, I believe. Some Canadian money. I got a lot of American coins and euros. Then some other interesting stuff. A bunch of Canadian money. 5 centavos. And then I have some older European stuff from before the euro. I grew up in and lived his entire life except for the date on it. It's ridiculous. You know this. Alex Jones won't even talk to me about how much of a pariah I would become. Days of Ireland. This is from 1990. The Dominican Republic, peso. Woohoo! You guys ever been to the Dominican Republic? I got a lot of quarters. I should probably use these for laundry or something. Quadas. Quadas, you know what I'm saying? You got a quad? Anybody use a quada? I think that's a New York City bridge token. Those people that has good eyes. Alex Jones. Alex Jones won't even talk to me. That's how badly I'm censored. I mean, even if when even Alex Jones won't talk to you, you know that you're like really somebody's list for some reason. So I consider that a badge of honor, frankly. I must really be up to some good things if even Alex Jones won't talk to me. I called him a bunch of times. I'm like, hey, Alex, really good things to share with you. I got a really good story for you. But he's a big full of coins from all over the world. A lot of times when Alex would not my call. I left him voicemails and I've left him emails and I've called into his show. I've chatted in his live streams. He has just blanked me out, basically. Maybe thinks I'm a little crazy or something. Or he's just afraid to go into the rabbit hole that I exist in. I pretty much live at the bottom of a rabbit hole, guys, when it comes to certain topics. Like, you can't get any further down the rabbit hole. Pretty much. I don't think. I mean, what I've been exposed to and when I've been exposed to it and the information that I have inside this head and that I'm trying to get out to people like you guys, so that you guys can be fully aware of what's actually going on in your government. Um, it- I mean, I am literally. I have a lot in common with Edward Snowden, perhaps, because there are times when I've actually not just uh, there are times when I've had to leave the country. Like I've literally had to leave the United States because I get targeted when I talk about stuff, and they don't want to. I don't think they want to kill me. They just want me to shut up, whoever they are, and I'm not going to do that. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair to the American people that um, we aren't all aware completely of what our government is doing and what capabilities our government has, and I believe in. Yeah, all I can say is, I'm really grateful to the nation of Canada for at times providing me with security and protection from the United States government, from elements of the United States government, I should say. And I'm grateful to many of the countries in Europe. I'm grateful to the Russian government. I know it's sad. Like, foreign governments have been better to me than the government of the United States at times, because I know stuff and I talk about it. And so they either all they can really do, like they either try to is make me look crazy, or intimidate me and threaten me to shut up. Um, yeah, Democrats are. I'm not. Ultimately, I'm not really aligned with a party. But if I ever had to associate myself with a party for purposes of getting something done, it would definitely not be the Democrats, because there's just a general tendency to not. And Republicans have done the same thing, but it's, I believe, less so than overall in the Democratic Party. And like, look at, they're traitorous traders. They're trading treachery, and that's what they're doing. Um, but yeah, you know, it's no surprise to me that Edward Snowden has to actually live in Russia, because well, the part of Russia that he's in is in Europe, but I believe um, because of what he exposed that our government was up to. Like, if he stayed in the United States, he would have been probably killed by now by somebody, and that is absolutely not right. I'm thankful that there is at least a Republican, a seemingly real Republican, in the White House right now, because maybe that leaves hope for people like Snowden and others like him, including myself, and like Julian Assange. And there are many others who just simply want people to know the truth, and won't be in, you know, that maybe there's some hope that people in that kind of situation won't have to continuously be outside of the country just to not be targeted by what I believe to be rogue elements in the United States government. Yeah, deep state, the deep state. So keep that in mind, guys. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of Americans outside of America now, maybe more than ever. And that's because those people know stuff and aren't afraid to talk about it, and the government makes it impossible. Elements of the government make it impossible for those individuals. So we should be doing more to protect people like that. Well, he is actually. Trump is actually using the military to take down a lot of things. Like, you may have heard about military tribunals and trials and even executions going on lately, and Guantanamo Bay filling up. The mainstream media will not report these facts, but this is actually happening. He is quietly cleaning out the deep state and removing them. And many of them are ending up incarcerated. And I believe some have been executed for very serious crimes. Yeah, it's good to see that there is finally some justice occurring, but the truth is, it's so much damage has been caused by rogue elements of the government that it's going to take a real long time, you guys, to really bring things back to the way they're supposed to be. I don't even know if it'll happen in my lifetime. That's how much damage, like, people don't really realize just how bad the situation has gotten. And unless we all work really hard together to fix this, we can't rely on just a handful of people to do it. It has to be done on a mass scale with everybody being aware and awake of what's actually going on. And those who have been lied to and tricked into siding with the bad guys need to be woken up still too, a lot of them. And that's very slow. It's a slow process if it ever happens, because with a lot of people, when they're presented with new evidence, it takes them a long time to change their viewpoint on things, if they ever can. Yep, justice is rarely found on this planet. You're right. So, but I do believe we're living in a cognitive dissonance, or what do you call it? There's another term for that. I forget what it is. Who's going to pay to fix it? That's the $1,000,000 question. multi-million dollar, multi-billion dollar, trillion dollar question even. So if anybody out there wants to buy my trillion-dollar company off me, all it's all on these. I'll sell it and start helping fix the problem better, because money to me is not really the issue. Fixing and solving the problem is, and if I had $1 trillion, I would start spending it to fix problems already. But I'm not some rich guy, but I have a lot of assets. My support to you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So what are you guys up to today? Anything interesting? I'm just, sitting here at my desk, and I was having coffee, so I figured I'd come on and say hi and see who's out there and who's still interested in what I've been talking about, and see if we can, connect better and start building a bigger community, really, because that's the way we're going to really fix things, is probably through our numbers, just sheer numbers. If everybody wants something to happen, then as long as it's possible, and anything is possible if you really put your mind to it, then that something will happen. So I think the real question is, how many of us are there, and how are we gonna make this happen? I'm just advocating that we work together and use the tools that we have at our disposal, which is, the system. Rather than being used by the system, we take over the system and use it as a tool. Pretty simple. And do it nicely, peacefully, respectfully, as a team. And when our grandkids look back at our generation, they'll go, oh, they were the good guys in all of this. And that's what I want. Anyway, I'm gonna get. Can we get some more coffee? Do you think? I need more coffee. Yeah. I think another thing that we need to realize too is that Trump is just a guy, and he's gonna, we do have to kind of like keep him in check as well, and that's only right and smart. Yeah, the coffee pot is plugged in, heating water, so it's actually what is that? A teapot? Yeah. What else do I have to show you guys here while I'm waiting for coffee? I'm sure I got something interesting for you. Oh yeah, check it out. All right, collection of CDs. I know I still use compact discs. Have you guys seen this movie yet? You seen that one? Super Size Me? It's a pretty good documentary style film movie. This is a CD of, it's a copy of the last album that my band produced, signed and autographed by the two primary members of the band, which is me and my wife. There's my signature. It's her signature. This is the Young Astronauts Club album, Europa. It took from start to finish literally 7 years to complete. Like 7 years. 2008 we started it in Florida, and then, well, actually some of it's even older than that. Some of it's even older than that. Like I started recording parts of it in Boston in like the 90s, but very small parts of it, and that we then other parts in like Montreal, other parts in New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, Dublin, London, and California. So that album was recorded in like 4 different countries and several different U.S. states. Pretty crazy. It might be one of the most expensive albums ever made. Like the amount of money that went into it, into the production of it, is just ridiculous. I don't even want to think about it. So if you guys get a chance to listen to it, at least even online, just stream it on like Spotify or anywhere. Young Astronauts Club, Europa. It's 10 songs. I am Roger. I am not the president, and am I with the First World Order? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, the One World Order. Oh, okay. One World Order. Well, I think I do believe that a world order is absolutely necessary at this point in time because, we are all interconnected, and we can't take the risk of, neglecting our responsibilities towards other countries. Um, just trying to be good neighbors and this kind of thing is important because if something negative happens in one country, it can affect every other country. So we kind of have to almost view the entire world, as a single entity out of necessity. Now, some of us want it to be that way, coincidentally, but it's just the hard truth that we have to accept. It's whether you like it or not, we're all interconnected and we can't isolate ourselves any longer. Those days are long gone. And I think World War One pretty much ended those days. So we've been in the midst of a new world being born, so to speak, for the last 100 years. Um, so, yeah, I mean, in some ways, yes, I am absolutely in favor of a one world type of scenario. But in other ways, I think it's important that people's and nations' sovereignty is respected and understood and appreciated because, if you start kind of forcing everybody to do things one way, it just becomes, it can go down very quickly. I think we all need to learn about each other more first and learn from each other as nations and peoples rather than try to. Yes, I know I need a better camera. I'm going to work on getting one, but I think what the point being that we do need to focus on like trying to understand different peoples and ways of thinking because rather than try to force something upon people, it needs to happen naturally and be something that everybody's comfortable with. You know, it's like a marriage. Like I've been married for 15. Let's see, how long is it now? Yeah, 15, something like 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. I just turned 15-year anniversary. That was a couple of weeks ago. But before you get married, you want to get to know as much as you can about the person before doing that. So I think that if there is going to be a one world order type of thing, we definitely need to get to know each other and understand each other better because you know that's natural. Learning about other cultures is important. Learning about other people, languages, ways of doing things, seeing things, uh, approaches to problem solving, rather than kind of like imposing one thing on everybody. I think that's wrong, and it's frankly ineffective. It's immoral. Really. Freedom of choice and free will is what this planet needs more of, and I certainly would not seek to force any country to accept any way of doing things. That would be, you know, the wrong thing to do, and it doesn't work. I mean, it just doesn't work. Young Astronauts Club. Who plays the drums? Well, we've had a lot of different drummers actually over the years. The band started in the early '90s. Um, the first drummer I ever played with was a guy named Jeff Pearlstein. Uh, and the second drummer I ever played with was a guy named Tim Walsh, aka T.W. Walsh, who is went on to be in bands like Pedro the Lion and other. Like was a solo is a solo musician. Um, Third drummer was a guy named Sasha Veneziano, who is now a film producer in Los Angeles. The fourth drummer was again T.W. Walsh, I believe, and maybe he was also the sixth drum. We He was in and out a bit. Sasha was like the fourth and maybe the seventh. Anyway, then there was a guy named Neil Dyke who now plays in a very well-known band called Blood for Blood. Let's see, a guy named Mike Rainey, who is also in some, or has also been in some other bands. What state does our band play in? Our band plays in anywhere that people are willing to have us and pay us. But we are based in, or formed in, and based in the Boston, Massachusetts area, which is where most of the musicians are sort of located, or sort of circus music. Maybe like Rollins Band or Alice in Chains, or and like Led Zeppelin, Ted Nugent, prepped in by that point. We were when we started in Boston, which had at the time a huge hardcore scene, with bands like Slapshot and I mean, even being close to New York, we discovered bands like Helmet very quickly. And New York had a huge hardcore scene as well in the early 90s. So that all kind of rubbed off on us as well. Yeah, but we were also into like the Pixies too. In fact, the Pixies played some of their first gigs at a bar I used to work in when I was a kid that my uncle owned. So socialism. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything good about socialism. I mean, it's not as bad as communism, but it's still bad. I mean, it's just misery, frankly. I'm familiar with Lag, and I don't know their music. That like I've heard of them, but I don't know their music. But we were also into like West Coast stuff, like the Dead Kennedys and like the alternative rock that came out of California in the late 80s, early 90s, like Faith No More and Jane's Addiction, and like Fishbone and stuff like that. Primus was great. Their early albums were mind blowing when they came out. It was like, wow, what is this? Yeah, there was a lot of great music that came from California in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of bands that started out then. It was pretty amazing. I saw Fishbone. They were great. Really nice guys, too. I got to meet a bunch of them. I had a copy of The Reality of My Surroundings, which was like autographed by everybody in the band at the time. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, but that's kind of where we came from. And, you know, we used to play at the same club that, like, starting out, that, you know, bands like Green Day would have toured at when they were, before they became a major band. I love Operation Ivy. That album has been on my playlists for 20 years, 25 years now, maybe. Something like that. Yeah, more since high school. I'm getting old. I'm 44 now, so. But yeah, going back to my early childhood, I mean, I had heard punk rock as a child. from my uncles, and they were actual like punk rockers, you know. So for me, I had always been exposed to the Sex Pistols and subsequently Public Image Limited. Still one of my favorite bands to this day is Public Image Limited. I think they're, you know, pretty amazing actually. Um, but yeah, and I have musicians in my family. You know, an uncle of mine kind of is a well-known session player who toured with some pretty huge bands like Oasis and Mark Knopfler, and um, plays on some of like the U2 stuff, uh, stuff like that. Yeah, the Ramones are great. There's nothing like the Sex Pistols as far as punk is concerned, in my opinion. I mean, they're just like, to me, they're the defining moment of punk rock. I think the stuff that came out of England in the late '70s, especially the Sex Pistols, that were kind of like it, and everything else was, you know, kind of the after effects of what the Sex Pistols did, which took a lot of balls to do what they did. By the way, I mean, they weren't just, you know, fashion. They weren't doing it for fashion. They had a very serious point to their music, and like they meant it. You know, it was for real, and it wasn't just about having fun or like being different or weird. Like they were full on like aggressive, and there's been nothing like that since, and probably never will be again. Yeah, there's definitely a U2 influence in Young Astronauts Club. I mean, I can't deny that for sure. Like, I grew up listening to U2. Um, like, I heard them a lot before they became a really big band, and I was only a little child. And like when they became this like huge thing, I was astounded because to me they were just, you know, a bunch of guys from Ireland who had a band, and yeah, it meant a lot to me when they got really big, actually, because like, you know, being of Irish, I mean, I'm Irish as well. You know, I'm American and Irish. Um, before when U2 got big, it meant a real lot to me because like before that, especially in the '80s, it was like very uncool to be Irish. Like it was very uncool, and they became really big, and it meant a lot. You know, it made me feel good about myself as a person, like that I could like that I could actually like accomplish something with my life despite being Irish. Because it's like the Irish culture thing is it's a little weird. It's like it's kind of there's a tendency to feel like we're kind of inferior uh, because of how other cultures and indeed nationalities perceive the Irish, even Irish Americans, and in fact, sometimes even especially Irish Americans. Um, so yeah, it meant a lot to me when they became big because it really showed me that anything is possible. I was like 12 when the Joshua Tree came out, and I was one of the first people to go to the store and buy it before With or Without You became a #1 hit. So, um, yeah, well, I don't think Johnny Rotten's a fighter. Like, he's not a fighting sort of person. He's very passionate, I think, about what he's saying, and he just wants people to know the truth about things and where things actually come from. You want to play some of my music? What do you want to? You want me to just play recordings, or should I get a guitar out and start playing a song? um, I haven't practicing, so I might be a little rusty a bunch. But let's see. I can play you a record polished and better produced. In fact, a lot better produced than our earlier stuff, which was like, we recorded whole EPs and albums in like a weekend. This thing took from beginning to end literally years to make, and it's youngastronautclub.com. It's actually me playing drums. I played the drums on the previous song, on part of it. There are like three different drummers in this one track. The first part is me. The second part is another drummer. And there's electronic drum, which were programmed by me as well, actually. And there's another drummer at the end of the song. So there's actually three different drummers for four different tracks, like drumming tracks, mixed together. So here's another piece of art. So that the whole album, the master recordings of that whole album can fit on one of these and fit in my pocket. Whereas in the old days when we used tape, it would have been like there's so much in these songs that it would have taken like this much tape. It's crazy. I've heard comparisons to YouTube or definitely Jane's Addiction. Maybe comparison with it. I do like Jane's Addiction a lot. Mm, Ritual de lo Habitual is one of my favorite pieces of major label music work ever. And indeed, Nothing Shocking is a masterpiece. Um, I don't know Tangerine Dream all that much, but I have heard it compared to that, and that's cool. I mean, I'll check them out more for sure. Filter, I do like Filter. Um, Richard Patrick from Filter is from Boston, so maybe that's why we sound a bit similar. Boston is a very unique kind of music culture that gets influence from all over the world rather than just like one scene. It's very international. Um, like we have like our music scene has as much in common with you know the UK and Irish music as it does with California music. So we're kind of like in the middle of those two. So if you can imagine a cross between California and Britain, like Los Angeles and London, or like Seattle and Dublin, that's kind of what Boston is like musically in terms of how we hear everything. And then we also get like a lot of Canadian stuff going the other way, and like southern music too. So it all makes its way in there. It's a gigantic collage of sound that inevitably comes out of any or comes out in any music that comes from Boston. Um, that I don't think really any other music scene has. Like New York, maybe a little bit, but it's difficult to say for sure because New York isn't like New York is kind of a town where people go to rather than come from. Um, we're coming from Boston rather than going to Boston. So, like growing up in that environment is kind of what our music is a product of. Um, yeah, I mean, I like electronic music. I grew up listening to Kraftwerk, Kraftwerk from Germany. Um, that's another thing. We do have a lot of electronics in our music. Like we're not just exclusively a rock band. So like to me, electronic music is as important as rock music. And I never saw a reason to separate the two into separate genres. Same with like punk and hip hop. To me, they have very much in common. Like I used to walk around with a Walkman. On one side, I had the Misfits, and on the other side, I had Run DMC. And I just thought they were both cool. I listened to them both. I liked both, and they, they're both creative and brilliant in their own right. And I didn't see the need to kind of like separate them into genres. It just didn't make sense to me. Um, to me, it's all just music, and it's all great, and you can it's real, and as long as it's real, I don't care where it comes from, who makes it, um, what genre the industry tries to put it in. None of that means anything to me. It's the music is the real, that's the important thing. Mm. I know Possum Dixon, Dixon, isn't it? They had that. I used to work in a record store in the very center of Kenmore Square in Boston, called Strawberries, and then I worked across the river at another Strawberries store. I was the assistant manager before I got a real job. Um, so I used to hear those bands. I heard Possum Dixon. I think they were pretty cool. I thought, okay, the Faint very much. Definitely have to check them out. Um, if you get a chance to check out Kraftwerk, if you don't know their music, I would definitely recommend that as a point of reference for electronica, because they're kind of like the Beatles of electronica music. Like they've been doing it since the 60s and 70s, at least the 70s. So, and they're still around even today. They're from Germany, I believe, Dusseldorf. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they influenced all that early hip hop music. People were rapping over Kraftwerk loops and things like that. So, but guys, that was Young Astronauts Club. That was the song "Lines in the Sky," and that took years to produce that song, literally. And an amazing amount of work went into it. Uh, and then, you know, online companies just want to take it and make money from it and not give us anything. This is what we're dealing with right now, is the lack of fairness um, that artists are being treated with. And especially in the business, the music industry. Okay, let me end the stream and see if I can start a new one. Hold on, I'll be right back.